All right, we are pleased to be joined by Eric Wynalda, former U.S. men's national team player and Bochum as well in the Bundesliga. Eric, MLS kicked off last weekend. Very exciting. Apple TV, my Union won 4-1. Big win for us, defending our East Coast crown. What were your initial impressions of the Apple TV kind of transition and how the studio and the production ultimately went down, and any takeaways from the matches or front office stuff that happened in the offseason?
Well, I mean, look, the only thing I'll say about the Apple deal is to wait and see. We're going to have to wait until about June to figure out what those numbers look like and see if that's going to appease the sponsors. We saw what happened with the NFL and the Amazon deal. Those guys all asked for a refund because the numbers went down about 41%. It's still a good thing, though. I mean, honestly, if you tried to click in with the games, you could get them all in one spot. You had that whip around show. Sasha Kleshin wasn't bad. I can't say much about the other guys, but it was a good weekend. I mean, the best part about it, I think, is the games were good. All of the games were good. Atlanta had a dramatic end, a lot of late goals. Your Union got it done. I was talking to Jimmy Curtin about that, and this league, once you figure it out, it really is. It's something because it's so hard to predict. You guys have been trying to prognosticate games. It's impossible sometimes. You just don't know. It's the only league in the world where you just literally it could be anybody could be a winner at times. But disappointed with Austin. Excited for St. Louis. Austin, that was a weird one though. I mean, somebody's got to call out Josh Wolf. Sorry to be the guy to do it with everything this country's going through, with the Reynas and playing your kid and getting mad if your kid doesn't play. And then they basically change the captain. They take Alexander Ring, who in my opinion is one of the best players in the league, and you play your kid in front of him, and then he's the worst player on the field. That wasn't a good look. I hope they figure that out. Owen, I love you, kid, but that wasn't a good game for you. So that Austin was kind of tricky. Nashville looked the part. They look like they're going to be somebody to contend with. Excited for RSL to get a win on the road. And I guess Minnesota's my dark horse this year. I just think Adrian Heath has got it figured out. He's got a pretty good team, not a great team, but they looked really good. Outside of Philly was the one team that stood out the most. And then, of course, in the one place that when you put this thing on the calendar that you think you're going to not be disappointed with the weather, LA, way to go. So they have to redo that one. And then of course, the last one on the slate was the Portland Sporting game, and that got pushed back a day. It was a Monday night fixture. That was just a bad game. And I think it was as bad as it wasn't even that it was really that bad. It was just all the other games over the weekend were much better. So it just didn't look like it. But all in all, you have to call it for now a success story. All the games, the presentation was pretty good. The commentary wasn't bad, so it was a good week for MLS. Great start. Outside of the LA game, was a good start.
What you said right there off the top, like we got to wait and see until June. But in reality, with this deal, it's like you got to wait like 4 years with the way that like the RSNs are going. Like Bally Sports is going bankrupt. Like here locally in New York, MSG is now just going to is going to launch a direct to consumer thing channel. And like I think back to like 20 years when I was like Fox Soccer Plus, like that's what I had to watch. If like before Anthony was born, right? Like if I wanted to watch Everton,
Not that yet.
like I had to either like find like a hacker to like find a illegal stream, or Fox Soccer. Hope to God Fox Soccer Plus would have it on in between like Sky Sports News and cricket. And I think so. Like in a way, I wonder if like in like 4 years from now, are we going to be saying that was actually kind of a genius move by MLS to do this early, right? To go full all in on streaming early, especially as a league that, let's call it what it is, like not on the radar for most casual sports fans, even casual soccer fans, right? Like, so that's my question here is like 4 years from now,
Look,
5 years from now.
It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. And so when you make a lot of promises and you want viewership and The numbers that I gave you last week may have been the undercut of it. It was over 200,000, let's just call it, or the viewing audience of these games, and they weren't having to pay for it. And now we're expecting those kind of numbers for people that have to pay for it. There's been a great reaction to the people that saw it. And maybe if you need 4 years to build it up to an audience of 200,000, that's not going to work either.
Right.
For that is because when you have the Audis of the world, or the people that are spending money on time and ad time, if they're looking at a 25,000 audience, it doesn't add up. They will ask for their money back, and so that it's when I say it's a wait and see, it's going to be a difficult situation for Don Garber, because he told those owners that they'd make money off of this, and he's already asking for a couple million from each of them to make it work because they're over budget. So maybe it might be a pretty tumultuous first year. 4 years is God knows where we'll be in 4 years, but it's got to get through this first phase. There's a lot of questions to be asked, and the sponsors are the ones that are the ones that might not pull the plug, but certainly show their discontent for lack of viewership.
You mentioned Minnesota as a dark horse. I'm curious, we look at the odds board. We don't talk a ton of MLS here for the reason you mentioned. I mean, it's a chaotic league. Once the domestic year ends in Europe, like I need a break. I can't go right into MLS full throttle. Is there a team you're eyeing up? LAFC is the favorite, plus 450, Philly plus 650, NYC, Austin 11 and 16 to 1, the Galaxy 17, Minnesota 32 to 1. Is there a team you're eyeing up maybe as like a dark horse?
Nashville as well. I mean, look, let's face it. Gary Smith has done it year in, year out. First year, 7th place, or 7th place, 6th, 3rd. I mean, he just continually gets better. He just got to re-up his deal. I think he's got a really good team. He's got all the pieces in place, and he's got an unbelievable support system with the following they have in Nashville. So look out for them. That's your Minnesota and and Nashville are the two teams that I'm keeping my eye on this year. There's obviously with LAFC looking to repeat. Austin looks like it's a little bit more problematic than we all thought from the get-go. There's just a lot more going on. Let's just before I get too crazy there. But there are the teams that I think are going to tank again, unfortunately, with San Jose being one of them, which, if you watch that, that was Almada gets 2 goals. He wins the World Cup. Messi says a lot of great things about him. We all said, yeah. And then, wow, 90-minute, 99th minute, 2 goals, dramatic win for Atlanta. I know that's an unhappy group. I'm hearing that from various sources. We'll see how that all pans out. And I guess lastly, you never count out Seattle. Schmetzer, he's had to have some turnover this year. Still has a very good team. Probably needs another forward, but I would say in order, my favorites this year, as far as dark horses are going to provide us with some unexpected moments, it'd be Nashville, Minnesota, and then Seattle.
Let's transition a little bit over to the U.S. men's national team. Yunus Musah is in the news today. Fabrizio Romano tweeted out that he's probably going to leave Valencia this summer, and that Chelsea and both Arsenal are very interested. Do you think that's a good move for him at this stage, given the squad depth that both those teams have, or would he be better suited trying to play for maybe a mid-level team in the Premier League, or making a move to one of the other big 5 leagues?
Well, let's just put it this way. When you're trying to move your player to the EPL, just bring in the big boys and talk about Arsenal and Chelsea, whether it's real or not, and you'll end up on West Ham. That's how it works. It's just the reality of what these guys do. These agents are doing all the time. They're trying to position their client in the best spot possible, and they try to pretend like everybody's interested. Oh, I just got off the phone with Chelsea. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's not true. Let's just back off, take a breath, and realize that Musah had a wonderful World Cup for all intents and purposes. He's not having a good year, and it's just a matter of getting him extracting him out of a team that looks like they might even be going down. So let's not get too caught up in it. It'd be a good move. We heard the same stuff about McKinney, didn't we? It was McKinney's going to Arsenal. He's going to Arsenal. No, he's not going to Arsenal. Grow up, everybody. Just don't believe everything you read. I know that Chelsea has got their wallet out. They've bought everybody in the world, but they're certainly not interested in employing Musah as one of their I don't want to say next mistakes, but they certainly are making a bunch of them right now. But he's not going to either one of those places. But start talking about other London clubs, because that's the real target.
All right,
BJ's team, Fulham.
Yeah, Fulham. No.
Well, hey, I saw today Chelsea's
not?
interested in Mitrovic, because why not, right?
Yeah.
They need
I mean, look at
striker.
Robinson and Ream right now. I mean, obviously their performance a couple days ago.
Yeah, Ream was a monster.
Yeah, and it's terrific. I mean, it's like, I call my son a 21-year-old ginger, and every time I pick up the phone, he goes, "You see Tim Ream?" I mean, it's what Tim is doing is remarkable.
Not just from a national team's perspective, right? Like, not because we're American. Like, I feel like he should be getting a little bit more respect.
Well, he was
for this season. Season is insane for a 35-year-old.
But Clive Allen, who's not always the most complimentary of commentators, wouldn't shut up the other night about how well he played. There he is again. And there's an explanation there too. When you're 34 years old, and I talked indirectly to Tim actually this morning, which is with the guy that does his podcast with him. And we were discussing, going on his podcast, middle of the month, I guess. And one of the things about Tim and what he's saying is just I feel like I've seen so many repetitions that I know where to be now. And what needs to be said, if you're Fulham right now, you're playing with house money. So it's not that he's going to go to the position where his coach told him to go. He's going to read the play. He's actually going to trust himself. He's going to have a moment there where his instincts take over, and he's not doing what he's told. He's actually making plays. Trust me, coaches will take full credit for it after it's over anyway. But that's the kind of guy Silva is. He's letting those guys understand their positions, and they're playing out of their skin right now. But I just think he's in, we call it the nevers when you get over 30. It's never been this tired, never been this hard to get to work, never been this long to recover. But once you get through the nevers, you have that little phase, and it's usually between 32 and 36, where you've never felt this good, and you never played this great, because you're actually, every day is special. You know how to take care of yourself. You're a good pro. You're not going out with the 23-year-olds. You got a kid, you got a family. You end up acting like a pro, and you start playing like a pro, and you have all of the wisdom now to do that. Notice how many times he's always where he should be at the end of the play. It's like a Bamford, little nudge, right? And Bamford doesn't get a shot off. Or it's a slide tackle that he just hits him off the toe, right? It's because he read the play appropriately and said, you know what, I think that guy's going to go there. So he's already got 2 steps on him. And, we can appreciate it. We can go all those silly, cliches, the fine wines and all of that. Tim Ream is in the form of his life, and he's enjoying the hell out of this, and his team is benefiting from it for sure.
Yeah, it's a great story. All right, we'll wrap there. But before we let you go, we need a underdog from you. Gladbach a couple weeks ago.
Why Gladbach? I screwed it up on the Frank. I thought the
that's
Frank.
All right.
No.
Look, you still are in the black.
Well, I'm still in a good standing.
Yeah,
I'm in a good standing.
You lose 3 more in a row, and then we'll have a different conversation.
Then we have an issue. And then we gotta fill out our taxes, which isn't fun. Now listen, I think I'm looking at the slate. I mean, the big games are clearly there. Stuttgart has no chance against Bayern, so let's just forget that. The bottom dwellers, I almost want to say your sure thing is Bochum and Schalke will be 0-0. Okay, great. Thomas Reich, you got 2 goals against Stuttgart.
That would be Bochum's second draw of the season? That's pretty hard to do.
But the thing is, neither one of them can score. Neither one of them are going to figure it out. The big game, obviously, is the Friday night is Leipzig and Dortmund. I think that's the most appealing game on the slate. I think Berlin, Union, that game just doesn't interest me at all. Looking at the Bundesliga, though, I think all eyes will be on that Friday nighter, and it's a big one. If I'm going to go on a limb here, I'm going to say over 4 goals, possible 5 goals, and Dortmund is your winner. So That's going to be a fun one to watch. I think it's going to be lights out or lights on or whatever you want to call it. I'm saying 3-2 to Dortmund, which is saying something.
Yeah,
Alright,
I mean
love-
Dortmund's tied, and if they're the only team that really has a chance at this point to dethrone Bayern. So
Especially if they
win,
beat Leipzig,
they
and
have a shot.
Union won't figure it out. They won't. Freiburg will fall off. We know that's coming. So it's all of the teams that I thought would be spoilers, the Wolfsburgs, the Leverkusens. That's starting to get a little bit tricky. If you guys start watching the second Bundesliga, start asking me questions about that. That's my bread and butter. But I'll go Dortmund. I think they take them. I think it's going to be another thriller. 3-2, possibly 4-2 to Dortmund.